technology this week.
How are you? Happy Monday.
Yes, happy Monday. For those of you who follow me, I love Mondays, and this is one fantastic reason why, because as a special Monday treat, 'cause I'm going to be out of town the next couple of days, I get to talk to Christine today of Christine Kennedy Wellness.
Yes, good morning. I'm so excited to talk about our topic today.
Yes, I love mindfulness. I just got certified in the spring, and I think even just in it's so much to cover that I think we're just going to kind of be the tip of the iceberg.
Yes, yes, yes. And I want to let's just dive right into it. And the first question that I got was, what is mindfulness?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there are so many different long definitions out there and different ways of viewing it. Let's hear your version of what mindfulness is.
So mindfulness, it's just kind of accepting non-judgmentally the present moments. It's kind of being in touch with your feelings as well as just even being present in your surroundings. It's like the opposite of multitasking. I don't know about you, but there's so many times I either walk in a room and I'm like, why am I here? Or my kids talk to me and I'm like, I don't even know what they just said, or anybody sometimes, because we're so caught up in our own head and our own thoughts that we're just not present. So it's about just taking a moment, and it can go anywhere from 2 to 10 minutes to 20 minutes, and just kind of reset yourself. I don't know if you have like different thoughts about it or.
Nope, 100%. To me, my definition is it's our ability to pay attention to the present moment without judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, so often we can go back and just think of so many different scenarios where we've gone to do something and those thoughts just consume us and, either completely alter the direction that we were thinking we were going to go or stop us dead in our tracks.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, practicing mindfulness, I started probably about 2.5 years ago, has been the biggest game changer, for me to be able to progress in all areas of my life. I think oftentimes people think mindfulness is for one specific focus of life, and I think it's for every aspect of our life.
Absolutely, absolutely. They say, the benefits of mindfulness span everything from your physical well-being. It lowers your stress, your blood pressure, your heart rate, as well as emotionally. It can help calm anxiety and worry, and even just some kind of obsessive behaviors maybe that people have, or some eating disorders. There's a lot of things you can do with mindfulness to kind of help retrain your thought. They say when you ask people who do they talk to the most, who's the one person they spend the most time with, they might list like their partner, their best friend, their mom, or whatever, but it's really ourselves. And it's like that inner voice and that inner critic, that mindfulness is kind of who you're working with and who you're changing the conversation with.
100%. And that was actually leading into our second question was, what are the benefits of it? I think a lot of times people hear, mindfulness and hear, oh my God, I have to add another thing to my day,
Mm-hmm.
But in actuality, when you're adding mindfulness, you're taking things away because
Mm-hmm.
you're not doing that multitasking. And
Right.
you hit it right on the button with the benefits. The greater amount of focus and concentration that we can get on an area when we're being mindful to it and we're staying in that present moment, the connections that we have. This morning, I was up, I did my coaching stuff, got my exercise in, and I was prepping for this, but my son wanted to play soccer and I didn't want to do both at the same time. So I stopped what I was doing,
Mm-hmm.
went, set an allocated amount of time to be with him so I could have that connection and be in
Mm-hmm.
that moment. And it's so much more fulfilling. You're leaving doing things with such a sense of fulfillment versus drained.
Right. Like, had you spent that time with your son still thinking about what we were going to say, what we were going to do, I don't think you would have gotten the same benefits or experience from it at all.
100%, and some of the benefits, are improved sleep, which I think, with all of the things that have been going on the past 6 months, getting our sleep is so important. It's
Mm-hmm.
what starts our day, so getting that improved sleep, that increased happiness, that, that optimism, that different outlook that you were talking about, just
Right.
having that relationship with our thoughts. And I
Yeah.
love the way that you address that and put it that way. Like, you're talking to your thoughts, like make your thoughts are a part of this. They're a huge
Absolutely.
part of
All day, all you hear is that voice in your head. Do this, don't do that. That looks good. That doesn't look good, and we're so judgmental and critical of ourselves. And that's why that acceptance and non-judgmental part is so big with mindfulness, because it's not about not thinking certain things or not feeling certain things, but it's about allowing yourself to feel them in a way that doesn't, criticize yourself or judge them in such a harsh way, but really just recognizing those feelings.
Right, right. And understanding that feelings are okay. I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of times, growing up, we're kind of told to shove those feelings in a box or somewhere away. And when we just allow the feelings to be there and be present and acknowledge it, I
Mm-hmm.
love the analogy of the leaf flowing on the stream. When the thought comes, acknowledging the thought and then letting it go away on the stream, acknowledging it and letting that feeling go, versus that harping on that feeling where those obsessive thoughts can then, come into play. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure every one of us can think of a situation where that's happened, and going back and trying to see how we could do things that little differently by letting it go opens up so many doors to the opportunities.
Absolutely. Yep. Just even, to, like I said, be present. Your body's present. And so to keep your thoughts where the rest of you is at can be very grounding and very calming, because there isn't so much weighing on you if you're just focusing on the present and that one thing at a time. So,
Right. And so another question that I got, which I think we get often, is how can it really help me?
hmm
Does
um,
mindfulness work?
it's a process. It's definitely, part of a practice and things like that. And there's no one set way. There's so many different ways to practice mindfulness. Like I said, it can go anywhere from 2 minutes to 20 minutes on up. But I think just having that intention is the first part, to intend, okay, I'm going to take 2 minutes. And whether, I've said you're at the grocery store standing in line for an extra 2 minutes, you're in your car, or you do find a couple quiet minutes to yourself at home. You don't have to close your eyes. You don't have to sit in a certain pose or anything like that. It's just about breathing, paying attention to your breath as it comes in and out, and even just noticing the basic sentences. Senses? What do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? Maybe what do you taste? And actually noticing those things and taking that time to notice it, that's mindfulness. That's just the beginning right there, but you're practicing it at that point. If you can take 2 minutes, feel your breaths in and out, and just notice, oh, I see this bird, I smell this, cupcake, or whatever.
Yep. That's one of the things that I do with my students in school is we do a lot of mindful breathing and mindful walking. And I started when I would go from class to class, I would practice my breathing, and that became
Mhm.
the habit for myself to just learn on that exhale, because the exhale is that calming part for us. And a lot of times when we're getting anxious or stressed, we end up breathing faster, and learning to practice that exhale when you're not in that stressed state makes it
Mhm.
so much easier to get to it when you're in that state or that feeling, because we have to understand that those feelings and those states are going to come.
Mhm.
We're always a constant work in progress. It's about minimizing the amount of time that we're in that state and being able to go back to that recognition and letting it go.
Yeah, and just being comfortable with being in different states as opposed to trying to avoid them. Like you said, that connection to your feelings and to your activities is definitely big in that respect.
Yes, I agree.
And that
Uh,
muscle memory, I think, as well from practicing. Your body gets used to feeling calm, and so it's going to be an easier state to get back to. I was thinking when you talked about being with students, so many times we tell kids, pay attention, calm down, and we never teach them what that means. We just expect them to know what that looks like, what the steps are, and so that's why mindfulness, by being able to practice it and show them, is so great at that.
Yeah, and I love a lot of schools are really starting to incorporate mindfulness. The
Mm-hmm.
social emotional aspect of things in the school setting is really making a presence. We actually started last year a Mindful Monday practice where
Well,
I would
awesome.
get on the loudspeaker and we would do a mindful exercise with the entire building, because we as adults need to practice it and role model it for our kids as well. It's kind of like, don't just talk the talk, walk the walk.
Right. As you're yelling at them, calm down. Like nobody calms down when you actually yell at them to calm down. That's the least calming thing I can think of.
Exactly. And, as a mom, going back to those times when you're feeling that stress between your child and yourself, taking that moment for yourself, you're teaching your child to do that at the same time. And
Hmm.
like you said, nobody wins when an argument ensues. We just, taking that moment to recognize your feelings, recognize what's going on, and then be able to progress forward. I love it.
Right. One of my favorite things to do with kids, especially to practice teaching them and modeling mindfulness for them, is to blow bubbles. They don't realize like they love blowing bubbles. It's super fun, but you actually can't blow bubbles fast or they pop. And so it's very, focused on that slow breathing, that intentional breathing. And so it's an easy way for them to physically see the results of it rather than just telling them slow down, breathe slow, because they like to blow bubbles. I like to blow bubbles. It's fun. It's a little goofy, but laughter is a great, calming technique too. So,
Right. Well, that kind of leads me into the next question that I got, which was, do I have to close my eyes to do it right? And I don't know anybody that really closes their eyes all the time that they blow bubbles.
no.
You don't have to. And when we're walking and we're doing a mindful walk or something like that, your eyes can be open. And a lot of times when I'm doing, mindful exercises for my students or for my staff, we'll just try and set the scene a little bit better. Like, have limited distractions going on around, finding that calming place. Sometimes, we'll put on some calming music and we'll dim the lights, or I'll
Mhm.
put on a candle. That's not always going to be able to happen,
Right.
but just want to kind of, if you're in your car, we've talked about shut things down for a few minutes and listen to the silence as opposed to creating the noise to avoid the feelings of what's going on.
Yeah, and that part alone, just getting comfortable with things being silent. If you're sitting in a waiting room and you don't have a phone, you don't have a book, you don't have a magazine, and you just sit and look around, you might be the only person doing that, but getting comfortable with just being with your own thoughts, it can be a start.
Yeah, you bring up a great point, because I think a lot of times when we're in those silent moments, people do get uncomfortable. I've gotten uncomfortable as well. And we end up going to social media or scrolling and stuff like that. And when we go into whatever we were waiting for, we're feeling more drained
Mm-hmm.
because we didn't do anything productive for ourselves. Mindfulness is actually productivity.
Yeah.
Learning to, like you said, sit in that moment. That's progress in that area. So, I'd really challenge people to, the next time they're, in that situation, to try not to go to your electronic device, to try and leave it, down and sit in that moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, like I said at the beginning, mindfulness is one of those topics. It is very broad. There's no one size fits all, but I think by taking it in little doses, little tips and tricks, and slowly building kind of your toolkit of different things, strategies and techniques that work for you and a different practice over time is how you build some of that. And so, like you said, I think that's great to, maybe challenge people that are watching, whether it's live or on the replay, find some of the things we talked about, whether it's the five senses of what you see, hear, taste, smell, or, just picking one activity at a time when you're doing them, or, the breathing, whether it's with bubbles or on your own. Pick one thing and practice it over the next week and see, do you notice a difference? Does it become easier each time you do it? And how can you build on that then as you go along, as well as share it with your kids and your family?